Hey, it's John and Justin here for Developer Day number 30.
30, that's awesome. What about 6 months?
Yeah.
So first we're going to talk about the new collection details view that we let out. You've probably seen some of the screenshots already. So here's a quick search. We have this new button, details. You click it and it just opens a page that tells you about it and lets you explore sort of the data behind it, how we geocoded it. And this is really useful for us. It exposed a lot of problems in our data, which we found and fixed a few of them very quickly. One of which was causing a ton of unnecessary duplicated data. And after we fixed 2 bugs related to that, the number of entries we had in our database decreased from almost 1 million to just over 600,000. It worked out to about a third. We cut it. We just got rid of them, which is really awesome. But also, there's a lot of value to the user. Yesterday, we had somebody send us feedback and say, hey, I did a search in Pennsylvania and I got back collections about Connecticut. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me take a look. So it turns out it's Sharon, Pennsylvania, which you see here, which is on the western border of Pennsylvania. It overlaps, when you just type it in, it overlaps a little bit on Ohio. And so sure enough, here's Connecticut results. And so when you look at it, and you see why, if you click on one of these entries over here, well, it turns out the northeastern part of Ohio used to be part of Connecticut, at least according to our data. I guess we haven't verified yet that. But according to our data, that's correct. And so that's why there's a lot of value in it, because that sort of thing happens pretty often, actually. And so that also helps our users see and understand what a product is doing. And it really surprises people, and it teaches them, and they love it. And we love it. So we're really glad we finally got this out, because it significantly increases the value of our website, and also, as we've said before, the performance. So.
Yep. And with that, we struggled a lot with trying to figure out a good way of allowing search engine spiders to find these pages, because this information is relatively useful, especially when we say this collection maps to these particular geographic locations for these time periods, and here's the tags and other things like that. But with all of our collections, we have like about 350,000-ish collections. There's no real good way to put them in a hierarchy. We were thinking we could go kind of by place, but then they map to multiple places. There was no good way of doing a hierarchy. So we kind of just said, well, we'll just create a big sitemap and submit it to Google. And
it turns out that's actually kind of common for
yeah.
Websites that are just giant archives of content, like Wikipedia or something. Well, I guess Wikipedia is not a good example, but ones that aren't well linked.
Yeah. So as far as we understand, that's fine to do, especially since the way you get to all of our content is by search.
JavaScript.
Yeah, JavaScript search. So we didn't end up creating a sitemap or your traditional hierarchy that Google can crawl. We just batched it all up. And you can see we submitted 332,000 collections. None have been indexed yet, but we submitted yesterday? Yeah, so we got that up yesterday. Hopefully it'll start percolating and Google will start scraping and having fun.
Yeah, we'll see if that generates any traffic.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah. Well, along with, now that we had a little better insight into our data, we actually wanted to know what percentage of coverage or collections we correctly indexed that we had imported. And it turns out the numbers are kind of surprising. Like you look here, Ancestry.com, we've imported almost 10,000. We've only indexed 7% of those. Some of that has to do with, there's a lot of California birth records, and the way our indexing and the data works is for us to correctly get California, we needed to say California, United States. Mm-hmm. So that's actually kind of an easy fix for us to go and do and look at that so we can bump up this number properly for Ancestry. Archives, another story, that has a similar problem with the states, but also Archives borrows a lot of content from Ancestry and Family Search. And thankfully, it's tagged in such a way that it's really easy for us to know. And so we just ignore those. And with the whole state issue and the borrowed content, we only indexed 1%, 6 of 417.
Yeah.
So
room for improvement.
yeah, hopefully the States bumps up that number pretty well. Family
Yeah.
search, we don't know why that number is 54%. We don't have much insight into that. So one of the things we're going to do is have a little script that generates a list of collections from a given repository that we didn't index, so we can sort of see what's going on. Because we have no idea that one. And then family search catalog, 84%. We were actually kind of surprised that number's so high. And again, a lot of that we're betting has to do with surnames. There's a lot of junk out there. Sorry, not junk, but data out there in the catalog that's just surnames. So
we're not going to really focus too much on the catalog right now.
Yeah.
We're going to see what's going on with Ancestry and archives, and then work on getting some of the plan data we have down here in our indexes.
Those will be fun. Well, we haven't looked at that much yet, but we have a goal to get 10 repos soon, and so
we're gonna shoot for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll see what happens, how hard it is to get those in, but we kind of feel that 10 is that number at which you hit a tipping point of usefulness for our search. If we can say, hey, we do 10 repositories worth of information on one site, that's something you can tell people and they go, oh, useful.
Yeah.
So, speaking of coverage, another thing we were interested in is taking a look at the geographic coverage of all of our collections. We were a little bit, Justin was a little bit worried that we were like almost exclusively United States and UK. And
because that's all we had imported.
Yeah.
In process. So we thought.
Yeah. So I was slightly more optimistic than him, but I was still worried about that as well. So we built a heat map. As you can see it here.
Turns out we were wrong.
Yeah.
As you can see, India and Australia and Germany. Africa?
Yeah, Africa, south of Africa and Zimbabwe. Yeah, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So what we did to generate this is we took each latitude and longitude and said, okay, for 0, 0, how many collections are within one latitude longitude distance of this point? And then we calculated that for the entire Earth, and we ended up generating about 25,000 points, which was nice because we can load that and we can show that on a map, and you can zoom in. And we had a little bit of fun trying to get this to display well. You'll see some plaid effects in the northern latitudes. That's because of the projection of the map. If you take a round sphere and you flatten it, the top of the map, the latitude longitude points are further apart. So that creates this kind of streaking effect. It's just kind of an interesting thing that we never considered until we threw it on there and go, well, that's interesting. So
another thing about this heat map is the way we're using just Google tools to do this, and the way their heat map works is its weight or score for the heat map is calculated based on number of points in proximity to it, which for us was problematic because we just wanted to assign our own weights to the points, which they actually have a way to do that, but even when you assign a weight to the points, they still do the proximity calculation. So we had to find this fine balance between like the radius of our points, which kind of is their influence, as well as the weight, which is a score, and then get that. It took us a long time.
Yeah, we ended up calculating quartiles. Yeah, so the quartiles to do a division, because we had really skewed data. We had a huge spike between about 0 and 100 collections, and then we kind of had nothing until we got to the United States and United Kingdom, where we had between 30 and 50,000. So we had a lot of points there, and you're looking at this giant, double bump, and trying to map that onto something that's meaningful. It was a fun challenge, just put it that way. So read about quartiles. They're very fun, very interesting math.
Useful. Yep. So we are making excellent progress. We are really excited with the way we're headed. We had a lady tell us recently that when she heard about our site, she started using it, got really excited. Next thing she knew, 2 hours had gone by. But thankfully, she had been able to find this mysterious marriage record for her grandparents that she hadn't been find for a really long time. So we love to hear success stories like that. We love the how much people enjoy the website, and now we're trying to get the word out about it pretty heavy. And really the only feature we have next on our to-do list is the ability to filter free and online in the search page.
Yeah, and that's mostly going to be a challenge of UI.
Yeah. And then of course lots of data.
Yes.
Much so.
Yeah.
We're really excited. We hope you're excited too. This is Justin and John, Developer Day number 30. Thanks for watching.
Take care.